Welcome to the AI argument. I'm Frank Prendergast. I'm here with my co-host Justin Collery. And just before going live, we were just chatting about the thing that has LinkedIn up in arms right now. Last week, we talked about the AI-generated Coca-Cola ad. And right now, what has LinkedIn on fire is the Jaguar ad, which when I saw it, my immediate reaction was, wow, this is the best AI-generated ad that we've seen yet. This is really good. And then I looked closer and I was like, oh, hang on, this is too good. Wait a minute, this isn't AI generated at all. I don't know about you, Justin, but this looked 100% to me like the images have been created with Midjourney. Like it just had that feel about it.
It did. It's a terrible ad. I hate the ad, by the way. I totally hate it. I love Jags. I think they're cool cars. They used to be cool cars. I don't know what the hell they're doing. They would be better leaving AI design their marketing campaign. That's the lesson I learned, Frank.
I have no interest in cars, and maybe I'm not a great critic of this ad, but I gotta say I don't hate it. Maybe this is why we call it the AI argument, and maybe I'm just a contrarian. I don't hate the ad.
Jaguar is associated with fast, powerful lions, running through the Sahara, the Serengeti, taking down its prey. The Jaguars were famous for getting, being getaway cars for the baddies when they robbed banks. That's what a Jag is, not this. What the hell is this?
I'm fascinated by it. So I read somewhere that they've stopped all production of cars currently. Apparently, they have not been selling very well in the last, I don't know how long. They've stopped all production. They've got new EV models that they're working on, and they are going to bring them out, and they're going to target a younger demographic who have crazy money, and these cars are going to be ludicrously expensive, apparently, and they fully expect to lose 85% of their existing base, apparently. So I don't know. I think it's a bold move, and I'm curious to see how it. But I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that the ad wasn't AI generated. I thought, wow, this is the ad we've been waiting for.
An interesting time in history to pick a strategy like that. And I don't want to get into it because it's politics, but the world is not going that direction, will be my sense. The world is leaning towards a different direction for the next couple of years. Fascinating case study in marketing.
It will be. It certainly will be. We have loads of actual real AI news this week. And I suspect that we are going to argue about every single one of them. Except I was going to say except this first one, but actually we probably will argue about this now that I think about it. So I had spotted that ChatGPT 4.0 got a new release, an upgrade. And one of the things what did you say?
Downgrade. Got a downgrade.
Downgrade. Okay.
Got a downgrade.
They kind of pitched it as one of the things that they were really pushing when they were announcing the change was that it was going to be better at creative writing, which I thought was very, very interesting. And I immediately thought, ooh, are they trying to stop people leaving for Claude? Because certainly in the marketing world, one of the reasons that people switch from ChatGPT to Claude is that they feel that Claude has a more human, natural writing style for creative writing. So when I saw that, I immediately wondered that. And then you drew my attention to something that would seem to confirm that is indeed what they are doing.
Yes. So unsurprisingly to me, there was a report released this week which had the percentage of sales for each of the big AI companies. And OpenAI, as everybody knows, was the leader, the number one in this space. But over the last 12 months, their market share has dropped precipitously. It's gone from, I think it was 75% down to 50%. While Anthropic, their market share, which was terrible 12 or 24 months ago, is now up at, I think, 33%. And I'm not at all surprised because Anthropic's models are brilliant. And it's really interesting because it was, to my mind, it was a downgrade, right? All the benchmarks, I use Anthropic all the time. That's all I use now. The models are brilliant. But I looked at all the benchmarks, and the benchmarks for the latest release of GPT 4.0 were down, not just a little bit, but quite a lot. And it reminds me of Anthropic about a year and a half ago when they went from Claude 1 to 2 to 2.1. Those models actually got worse as they released them. It was incredible. I couldn't believe it. And then they released Claude 3 and everything came good. So I don't know what OpenAI are at. There's a lot of, did you see this week, by the way, that Google released 2 models, not 1? Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So they released a model on Monday, and the naming convention of all these models is so horrible, you just can't remember them. They released a new model on Monday, and the model wasn't great at all. And then they released another new model yesterday, which has shot to #1 on the LMSys leaderboard. It's gone straight to the top. Apparently, it's brilliant. And so there's thinking that maybe what they're doing is they're gaming because OpenAI famously game Google. So when Google release something, OpenAI try and upstage them. And so it's almost like Google are playing reverse game then. Okay, they'll sort of dummy with the left and then knock you out with the right, sort of a thing. And so they released a terrible model on Monday, knowing that actually they were releasing the real model on Wednesday.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Stuff altogether. So what do you think? Have you had it? Because it's funny, right? Models are becoming a little bit sticky. So I use Claude now, and it's going to take me quite a lot for somebody to drag me away from Claude. I still have my OpenAI subscription, living in hope, holding my breath that the full 01 will be released. Hasn't happened yet. I thought it might happen yesterday, but nothing still. Have you used the new one, or what's your feeling for the, do you notice an upgrade?
I haven't noticed, but I haven't been paying like really probably specific enough attention. But I haven't noticed. And I mean, even, just talking about like the creative writing and people preferring Claude, I just find, because I've experimented with both models, and what I find is they both just have like peaks and troughs. So one day one of them will be performing absolutely brilliantly, and the next day it won't, and then I'll swap over. And I find that a real weird thing about LLMs. But yeah, so I don't necessarily find one distinctively better than the other for creative writing, but I find that on any given day, one might be better than the other.
Interesting. So because this was a week of releases, right? I mean, your head would explode, which is actually what's happened to my head, if you were trying to keep up with all the releases. So this week also saw the release of a new model from a Chinese company called DeepSeek. And look at it. I mean, I'm not sure that I care terribly about this. I'm not going to use it a lot unless, again, there's a pervasive reason. But people got very excited about this for 2 reasons. One is it's a brilliant model. It's an 01 model, so it's a thinking model, right? It takes time. It'll, the same as GPT 01. And it beats the OpenAI model on, again, not beats, okay, equals some model. It's slightly above or slightly below on most of the benchmarks. Open source. So they're going to release all the weights. They're going to release all the code. They're going to say exactly how they did it. How long is it since OpenAI released Open 01? 2 months. It's taken the Chinese 2 months to copy that technology. So that's quite a big deal, and brings me nicely along to my favorite story of the week. Should I tell you what it is?
Yeah, go for it. I have a feeling this is going to be one we're going to argue about.
Congress released a list of things that they want to do in the next term. And one of the things that they want to do is in fact, it wasn't just one of the things, it was the #1 thing. It was #1 on the list. They want to do a Manhattan project for AGI. They're going to do a moonshot. They're going to put all the resources of the state behind building AGI for the Western world. I think it's great. Let's do it. I think we should be doing the same over here in Europe. We need to get real about this.
All right, so now we get into the real meat of why we call this the AI argument.
Yeah.
Wow. So the reason that I think this is great is because it ignites this conversation again that I think we very much need to be having. And I'm delighted to see that a lot of people have come forward now to say, why this is not a great idea. So that's the reason I think it's a great idea.
Genuinely, why do you think it's not a great idea?
I watched a really interesting interview. I'm going to have to check his name. Where did I put his name? Yuval Noah Harari. And he was talking about this he was saying that, he's spoken to a lot of, because he's written a new book about information, the whole history of information right up to AI. And he has talked to a lot of kind of people in the field of AI, and the sense that he gets is that a lot of them, he admits not all, but a lot of them believe really that we should be slowing down, because humanity and society is excellent at adapting to change and adapting to new technology, but we've never had to do it this quickly. And they're concerned that the rate of AI, and particularly if we reach like AGI and it starts to self-improve and lead to super intelligence, the rate of change we just won't be able to keep up with. And so the logical thing to do would be to slow it down, let us adapt, let us figure out how to adapt, let us be sure that we can produce something that is good for humanity, as OpenAI claim that they're trying to do. But they won't do it. They won't slow down. They won't. No, it isn't. And the reason is that, they're like, oh yeah, but China will get there first, so we have to do it. And his point is, we have, since the dawn of man, we have figured out how to get along with our fellow man to a certain extent. We have figured out how to trust our fellow man to a certain extent. And so we are rushing to AGI on the basis that we can't trust the other humans, even though we have a history of doing pretty well in that. And we're trying to create this thing that would be smarter than us, that we have no idea. We have no experience of it. We have no idea, can we trust it? We have no idea, can we control it? We have no idea, full stop. And I thought that was, a very logical and sane perspective on it.
It's totally wrong, though. We don't trust each other. We went through 60 years of a Cold War where the two biggest superpowers in the world didn't trust each other. And the only reason that they didn't go at it hammer and tongs was because they both had the same firepower, which had mutually assured destruction. If the other side gets AGI first, it's not mutually assured anymore. It's only unily assured. It's you that's going to lose. So let's say, for instance, China is doing very well at the moment in making small models. It's really interesting. So what's happened is America has, and in fact, the chip company themselves have put restrictions on the selling of very high quality chips. So NVIDIA don't sell chips to China, don't sell high-end GPUs to China. So Chinese engineers have gone to work to make these models, which are as good as GPTs, on hardware which is less performant. They got really good at it, right? That's scary. From a technological point of view, it's scary. From a competition point of view, it's scary. And what's going to happen is if they develop AGI first, that's game over, right? There is nothing that you can do, because once they get to this sort of curve where they get to AGI and then ASI, it's like a piece of string. Like, they're getting further away from you every day, and you're never going to catch up with them. So it's a race to the finishing line, and whoever gets there first wins. And ideally, you would like everybody to get to the finishing line at the same time. But that's not how it works.
But so this guy, Yuval, made another interesting point where he was saying that we put our minds to incredibly sophisticated problems, and we solve these technological problems, and then frequently we realize that actually we didn't spend enough time figuring out what the real problem was. And this seems to me the perfect illustration of that. I don't think I'm not sure if this was what he was getting at when he made that point, but this would seem to be the perfect illustration of that. Because what if, instead of putting our minds to developing AGI and solving that problem, what if we solved the problem of, how to actually get international agreement on the development of AGI, and potentially even a slowing down to ensure that society can adapt accordingly?
Nobody's going to slow down, and they're not mutually exclusive, right?
But
in fact, you're talking about trust in humans, right? Would you look at? I'll give you one example of a human, right? Elon Musk. Elon Musk came out about 12 or 18 months ago, and he said, you know what, AI is really, really dangerous. It's an existential risk. It might wipe us all out. I think we should all pause for 6 months and not do anything. He and a whole load of other people went and signed that letter. What's he doing today? He's making AI faster than anybody else, and he's catching up, and he'll probably overtake them in the next 6 months. Would you trust him?
Yeah.
You would.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I find it kind of interesting that he now is in a position of extreme power with his relationship with the coming president. And yes, I suspect that all of that, he will have the ear of the president. I know AI isn't his remit. He's involved in a totally different thing, but he will have the ear of the president. And will he be saying, we should have a slowdown? No, I don't think so, despite all of his talk in the past.
So why would you trust anybody else?
I think the point is, though, for all, like I've said before in the show, that it smacks a little bit of the kind of AI reds under the bed. And, we use, how many things do we have in our home that you turn it upside down, it says made in China? There is a certain, there is a certain level of like global trust, like we do in general. I know right now there are horrific instances and examples of where we do not get along. There are several high profile and awful wars going on right now. But by and large, we've done a pretty good job. And so I don't know, I feel like we should have a little bit more faith and put our minds to the more pressing problems of how to avoid being destroyed by AGI.
Yeah, I disagree with the premise in the first place, which is that AGI is going to destroy us. I think a human with AGI is much more likely to destroy us, and that human is probably going to be on the other side of some sort of offense. And the world is built on competition, and we are in competition with the Chinese and with the Americans and with the Russians and with the Europeans and whatever. That's the world we live in, and they would all rush to get the best technology first.
Can we not all just get along, Justin?
No, that's not the way the world
works. It's nearly Christmas. It's almost Christmas time.
Look, go back to your Coke ad. Everything will be fine. Listen, I think, right, because there is another story that is related to this, and it's a nice segue, right? So, because there was this company that you brought up this story, which I think is fantastic, and it's linked with a whole other lot of stories that are around the same thing, and it was to do with this company. Remind me what it's called again. TwinMind, right? So TwinMind is going to record. You can explain to me in a second exactly what it does, but I think it's just going to record everything you do and basically become a copy of you. And you're like, I don't want any part of this unless it's a local, fully secured copy. And remember what I just said about the Chinese not getting the chips, and therefore they can make models that are really good on really poor hardware. The only model that will be able to deep mind Frank Prendergast, or dupe mind or copy mind Frank Prendergast, is going to be a Chinese model, in which case it might be running locally on your machine, but it's not at all local. Trust me, the Chinese knows just as much about you as you do, and possibly quite a bit more. But just tell me about this. This looks brilliant to me. What is it?
I think it's if I remember correctly, it lives on your phone. Does it live on your phone?
They have a Chrome extension now as well.
And it records everything and transcribes it, turns it into text, saves it as text, and then basically you can interrogate it about anything. So that's why it's called TwinMind. So you could be like, oh, who did I talk to today about that thing? Or you could say, I don't know, what was that film I was watching earlier? Or where, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what else. I actually don't know what the practical use of this would be, because I can imagine it would be useful for things like, where did I put my keys? But how's it going to know where you put your keys unless you said out loud? Unless you get used to maybe saying everything out loud in order for it to be able to help you. I'm putting my keys in the drawer now.
Well, they have also now just released a Chrome plugin, right? And I'm sure it'll listen to your microphone, and it'll listen to your camera, look at your camera, and it'll record your keystrokes, and it'll see what you're seeing, right? So it will know everything about you. So here's why I want it. Here's why I want it, right? We go out for a pint together. We have a good time. We have a big argument, a couple of beers. I wake up on, Friday morning. I'm a little bit groggy. I'm quite tired. To be honest with you, I'll be fine by 10, but there's a whole load of just silly things that need to be done. If it knows this is the year of agents, 2025 is the year of agents, and if it knows everything about me, I'm just going to say, look, can you just answer my emails there for a while and just check if there's any fires burning? And if there's anything I really need to know, come wake me up. And if there isn't, could you just do the sort of noddy stuff there, please? And because it knows everything about you, I think it'll do a really good job. I want one. In fact, I'll have 10 of them doing all different things.
That's really interesting, because you've just reminded me that you predicted this in like episode 1 of the AI argument or something, when you said that every business should just have recording devices everywhere, record everything and know everything, and then have this organizational AI that just knew all of the information. So you predicted this in a way. This is like a personal version of that. I think it sounds absolutely.
That's why it's interesting, right? Because, okay, when I was envisaging it for accountants and people that do, fairly monotonous work like that. I'm not going to say it. My brother's an accountant. They're lovely people. Some of my best friends are accountants. But anyway, you're typing stuff. I just imagine that you could record and automate that quite easily. And then Microsoft came out with the Copilot PC, right? And that all seemed like Big Brother recording you, which is scary. But this one seems more personal, and that's why I like it. It can be my twin brain, and it's doing my work that I'm getting paid for, but it's doing it for me. So I'm the one who's getting the benefit of it, not Big Brother is getting it. And that's it's kind of appealing to me. And I think it might be appealing to a lot of people for that reason.
As I said, if it was locally stored and secure, and I was confident of the security, I might give it a go. But giving all that data to a third party and not knowing where it goes, not a hope. No, I'm not in. Count me out. I don't want any part of it.
Frank, one of these days, and this technology exists today, right? One of these days, we're going to be here chatting, and then the door behind me is going to open, and you're going to see me coming in with a cup of tea because it's not really me that's talking to you.
So related to that, there was another story which was absolutely fascinating, which was that based on whatever about like giving access to everything you say 24 hours a day, there was another study that showed that based on a 2-hour interview with someone, AI could replicate their personality.
Yeah.
Now, they did admit in the article that when they say replicate your personality, they're talking about, within a very limited set of parameters, very specific types of tests. But in terms of things like testing, because I'm a marketer, I immediately think of like testing out marketing and things like that. Yeah. This could be a really, really fascinating use.
I think this is the most interesting story of the week. The most interesting story of the week. Yeah, because I think this whole area is a new area of science, and it's a new way you can almost do in vitro social science, or in vitro marketing science, or in vitro political science, or whatever. So if I collect enough data about different types of people and find out which way you want to do it, and then I can create 1,000 or 10,000 copies of those people, I can test really quickly marketing, as you say, right? Brilliant. Think of how valuable that is. I can test my Jaguar ad, and all of my AIs will go, oh, it's terrible. It's horrible. Get it away from me. Or, I could test if you're a political party, right? And you're looking to form your message for an election. You can go and you can just test your message, and your demographic, and the demographic you're looking to entice or to attract. You can test those messages. Fascinating. I can see.
You could basically have what I think what they said in the article was that the AI matched the real person to about 85%, which is pretty impressive. So what you could do is you could basically have like what's the word? What's the word when you have a panel of people in marketing? It's completely gone out of my head. So you could basically do a 2-hour interview with your panel, and then you have that panel permanently to test any new ideas, you float any kind of new campaign past them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I mean, if I was really smart, what I'd look to do is ways to collect without having to get those people in, right, to do it in a panel, but just a way to collect that data in the wild and then use that data to create all of those minds. Fascinating. And I think it seems to me that's an underused opportunity, and it's so cheap to have that. It's so much cheaper than having real people. And you can do any test that you want, and you can do it as many times as you want. It's a brilliant use case. So I love it. Now, it's very related then to another story that you had, which I also think is interesting. And that's mechanized mind. So you were concerned this week about the impact of AI on human thought, which doesn't happen a lot on this side of the screen, I can tell you. But on that side, maybe it does.
So, yeah, this was a fascinating read. So the article was "Mechanized Minds: AI's Hidden Impact on Human Thought," and it was not about what I expected it to be about at all. Now, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this philosopher's name at all. It might be
You got all the guys with the good names this week, Frank. So you did.
I know, yeah. Jiddu Krishnamurti. So this philosopher, he was talking about basically how AI has kind of freaked us out a little bit in terms of the chatbots appear to be able to mimic human thought. Like they give output that would seem to imply that there's a human level of thought going on in the background. And his point was, everyone's obsessed with like, ooh, what does this mean for machine sentience, and when will they be sentient, blah, blah, blah. And he was saying, actually, let's look at it the other way. He said, let's look at it. He believes that what this shows, and I'm going to paraphrase here. This is my version of what I took away from the article. So I'd urge everyone to go and read the article if they want to know what this philosopher actually said and meant. But my version is that, what he seemed to be saying to me was that what it really shows is that human thinking is the most robotic and mechanical part of being human, and that there is so much more to being human, being conscious, being sentient, and that what we need to do now is not worry about how much the machines are catching up with the way that we think. What we need to be doing is exploring the other aspects of our consciousness and the higher levels of our consciousness. And he was completely upfront in the article that he said, he doesn't necessarily really know what this means or how we do it, but that this is what we should be exploring now, is what actually genuinely sets us apart from the machines.
I think, okay, that's an interesting take, because my take was slightly different. And that was, okay, so we're worried about how, sentience and how AIs think, right? And I was reading this slightly a different way, which was, this is almost like, what impact does the AI have on our thinking? And does it impact the way that we think? Or does it demean, or does it make our intelligence less? And that's possible. I can certainly see that. And I would agree with them, right? There's so much more to, like, there is this idea that we're heading into a world of abundance, right? That's the sunny uplands that I'm hoping for. And I'm quite confident we'll get there. Where, everything you want and desire will be provided. If you want to work, you can work. And if you don't, you don't, right? And there's more to life than work. So that's a good thing. But also we learn through working. And so maybe we lose a whole lot of intellectual stuff by not working. So that's an issue. And then when I was thinking about all of this, I was thinking about, I tell you, when you think about, the impact of complete abundance on your intellect and your person, right? And then I was thinking, God, you have to take this right down to its most basic instinct, right? And when you think about every technology that's ever been invented, we invented books. And the first thing we did was we printed the Bible. But I'm pretty sure the second book to be written was a love novel, right? Probably a pretty saucy one, right? And from there on, they got saucier and saucier, right? And then we invented TV, and, we had all sort of smutty movies. And, then we had the internet, and porn was what drove technology in the internet, right? That's what made internet connections faster. That's what made us have Netflix today and videos and stuff. That's always been the way technology has gone. And in an age of abundance, what does that do, right? I can literally sit in my house and have every need, and I mean every need, catered for. And that's not a happy future, right? I don't think that's a thing that I would be worried about. So that's a thing, right, that I was worried about. And then the other thing I was worried about is, so we create all these AIs and we just become less intellectually capable because we don't have to think anymore, right? We can just offload all the hard work. Thinking is hard, and we can just give that out. We can just give that out to something else. And then in 20 years, when we've all forgotten how to think and how to actually to do anything productive, There's a huge solar flare, wipes out all the AIs. They're all gone. What the hell do we do then? That's a problem.
Yeah. And this was part of his point was absolutely, if we get complacent now and we don't explore, because we haven't been exploring what it really means to be human. We haven't been exploring, apart from a very small group of people maybe in the wellness space, have not been exploring what our higher consciousness might be if there is such a thing. And so his point is, if we get complacent now, we could be headed to a very, very bad place.
Yeah, I think we kind of agree on that one, Frank.
It actually sounds like we do. I still haven't made up that sound in the graphic, but I'll just go, woo, agree. So yeah, we're out of time already. I can't believe it, but I knew there was so much to talk about this week. But I think right at the end, let's slip in one that is slightly concerning. But sorry, it's slightly concerning. But I also I can't help laughing. I also kind of find it. I also just find it funny for some reason. I think because it didn't have it. Thankfully, it didn't result in any negative consequences. But I take the point that it could do. I take the point absolutely that it could have negative consequences. But Google's Gemini told a user to, in inverted commas, please die. And it basically went on to say, you are a waste of resources. and shocked.
A big company, Frank.
No, I have not.
All right, because there was a report came out this week that said that 10% of people that work in big companies do zero work, absolutely nothing. They write like one line of code every year. That's it. And I'm just thinking, somewhere, I'm sure in those companies, there's people who do work, and in the back of their head, they have this monologue. They'd love to just say, would you please die? Just you are literally a waste of resources. Could you please die? But you can't say that out loud, right? That's just not nice. And, HR be on to you, whatever. But the AI is just saying what it was really thinking. And I think honesty is a good thing.
We have, this is it, isn't it? We've just been talking about, when do they become sentient, and what level of thinking is going on in that black box, or what level of thinking versus what level of just a prediction engine it is. And here you have to hope that this was a technological glitch and not one of these sparks of sentience that we hear about coming out. Because if it is one of those sparks of sentience, Justin, surely that would make you rethink your stance on rushing towards AGI.
Tell you what, right? On a slightly serious note, I will define, or I'll give you a definition that I think what sentience might be. So I think that when you give the models, the big models, the good ones, when you give them a question and they give you an answer, I think for that split moment, they are sentient. In a way, right? And the sentience disappears. It appears and disappears in a flash, right? So it doesn't really matter. But I think if you were able to chain one moment after another moment so that it was able to have a chain of thought and have a lived experience over the course of years, I would defy you to tell me that that's not sentient. Now, technically, that's not possible right now, but I think that it will be possible in the very near future. And I think then you do have an interesting conversation about, is this thing sentient or not? Because back to the old Turing test, right? It was, if you can't tell the difference, well, then, it's as good as a human. And in that case, I don't think you'll be able to tell the difference between sentience and not.
Absolutely. And it actually, I'm going to slip in one last article that I came across, which was saying that there are going to be ructions in society between the people who believe that AI is sentient and the people who believe it's not. All of which just made me want to go back and watch. Have you seen the British show Humans?
No, but I think I'm going to go watch it now.
Oh, you've got to go watch it. Great show. And it's all about that. It's all about these robots, these domestic robots, the type of thing that Elon Musk is promising we'll have shortly, and whether they're sentient or not, and the ructions that happen in society, as some people believe they are and some people believe they're not. And yeah, it's a great watch. Highly recommend.
Frank, it's going to be a fun couple of years. That's all I can say.
It certainly is. Yeah.
Well,
pleasure as always, Justin.
As always, and listen, we might have a new model next week. We just might.
We'll see. I'm certainly not going to hold my breath. I hope you're not going to make that mistake again. You had to hold your breath for months the last time.
I know. But next week is the 2-year anniversary of GPT-4. Or is it ChatGPT?
You think they're going to have
an anniversary? It's an important one. They might give us.
You
something.
think they're going to have some fireworks?
If it's not a new model, it could be Sora, and you'll be very pleased with that.
That will be fun. That would be fun. It's been too long. I've pretty much given up on it. That would be fun if they released that.
Yeah, brilliant. Frank, pleasure as always.
See you next week. Cheers, Justin.
Talk to you. Bye.